So this episode is for anyone who wants to be able to crush young talent, to squash the potential of the latest generation of what appear to be incredible thinkers, philosophers, entrepreneurs, creators, and builders of things. And anyone who wants to squash that, keep them down, suppress them, give them mental fatigue and anxiety. I've got all the tips and tricks here. Now, there's a famous Silicon Valley investor by the name of Chris Dixon. His stock's going up right now, and good on him. Now, he wrote a piece a while ago around how the next big thing tends to look like a toy. So if you think about the internet, cryptocurrencies, gaming, TikTok, YouTube used to be cat videos. We so often laugh and, the famous words, what is it? I think Blockbuster said to Netflix, it's the title of the Netflix book by Mark Randolph, that will never work. The next big thing always looks like a gimmick. People don't think it's serious. I think a good example is Atlassian, one of the premier kind of Australian startups. Back when Mike Cannon-Brookes and Josh Farquhar were starting at Atlassian, entrepreneurship in Australia, it's like 20 years ago, was not what it is now. It was much more of a gimmick. It was unusual. It was out there. And I think we've seen that with so many different technologies, but also different types of jobs that you can have in society. I think it's the dynamic you always see in films that have a very traditional family, and then the child wants to break out and do something that is not in the spectrum of conventional career paths. A great example would be something like Bend It Like Beckham. I can't remember the protagonist's name, but the young girl wanting to play soccer comes from an Indian background and is expected to just fall into an arranged marriage. It's the kind of bring, not honor, but I'm thinking of Milan, but bring respect in the community to the family. That is the value system that the parents have inherited. That's their worldview. That's where they think value lies. And they try to, hand that over and pass that on. And I guess their desires for their children are for them to succeed within that paradigm and framework that they've inherited. And that is the dynamic which always creates these rebellious teens, but also on a bigger scale outside of the atomic family, rebellious technologies and trends. So we need to understand now that we always have a particular worldview, and the progressive people who are normally younger adopt the new trends. They adopt the new things, the next layer of technology, the next layer of progress. And to us, it often looks like toys. It often looks ridiculous. To give you a very clear example, the play-to-earn movement. I'm not sure how deep you guys are into the worlds of all things Web3, cryptocurrency, and online gaming, but there is a huge innovation happening now with play-to-earn, they call it, where you're actually able to go participate in certain guilds and parts of gaming ecosystems where you can actually earn currency. You get paid literally to participate and play games as part of a guild. I'm not talking about being an elite gaming streamer on Twitch with hundreds of thousands of viewers or on YouTube. I'm talking you right now could literally go to, a good example is YGG, Yield Guild Games. If you have a Meta wallet, you can sign up and join now. No followers or anything, just participation. Whereas when I was growing up, gaming was seen as this ridiculous tangent, a distraction from study. Now it's emerging into what will be a very viable means of income for large portions of the global population in the next decades, which is just ridiculous. You would not have picked it. And this is the funny thing. It's the things you don't pick. There's a great book called The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe and William Strauss, which unpacks the 4 different generational archetypes and the time periods that we actually cycle through. It's very fascinating. Each lasts about 20 years, meaning that the 4 turnings reset every 80 years or so. I won't go into the specifics, but the concept is that, again, we are always locked into a worldview that's dominated by that 20-year period we grew up, and we're following trends that have been repeating for thousands of years, documented by historians like these guys, in our thinking, and we struggle to break that. History is very cyclical. It's not so much just this straight line that continues going forward. And I think that's fascinating. Being aware of that and acknowledging that is really important, because then you start to give young people this freedom. It's a very tangible, relatable example day to day is I guess I talked about it in the previous episodes around some of the three examples of young teen entrepreneurs right now who're still getting pressure to go to university, who some of them have gone to university, decided to leave school early, already figured out university is not a place where they're really going to learn. The point of those conventional career pathways everyone keeps pushing people towards, well, that they actually deliver less value to their overall economy and to moving society forward. There's people willing to take the risks to embrace the new things that we need to lead us, and we're trying to push them away from it because we haven't recognized and validated it yet, because we don't have the perspective and ability. By we, I mean not necessarily me. I think I'm not doing too bad, but in saying that, we can't lose track, and it'll be our turn. It'll be my turn when I'm 50 years old to be stubborn and short-sighted too, and I acknowledge that. I often use the high jump metaphor, that the games of, say, if you want to call it entrepreneurship and innovation and real creativity and artistic freedom, was seen as games with bars that were way too high. It was hard to become a filmmaker. It was hard to become an entrepreneur in the 1960s or the 80s, especially when, say, this generation's parents were growing up. The things that were still quite high but a bit more achievable were university kind of college-backed pathways. But what's happened, because of those spaces of innovation, the barrier to entry has become lower. So imagine the bars getting lowered of that high jump game. And now it's easier to get in there, get in the first round, if not easier than actually getting into a lot of degrees. So it's easier to set up a business online, not make thrive and make millions of dollars, mind you, than it is to get into, say, a commerce degree or a medicine degree. There's YouTube now democratizes people becoming filmmakers. You can, you can bypass all the structure of production companies and funding and approval and distribution, and you can use platforms like TikTok and YouTube to share your video content with the world. As an author and a writer, I'm blown away that it doesn't cost me anything to put a book up and start selling it on Amazon, on KDP. This has changed over time. It used to be very hard. You needed to go bypass the gatekeepers. You needed the agent, the publisher. Now you can self-publish. So the games are changing. So if you want to crush a generation of young talent, keep pushing them towards the old games, the ones that seem familiar and safe. Don't let them pick up and play with toys, because there's very few toys in this day and age that can't turn into very viable income streams and contribution streams.